All
Thank you.
right. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll be starting off, and I'm basically going to be talking about phishing to start off with. And I know a lot of you are like, groaning, phishing, have to listen about phishing again. But to be honest, like what we've been seeing out there is that that's how people are still getting hacked, right? And it's not going to stop until more user awareness goes on, more user awareness training goes on, and people really could kind of see the different kinds of types of consequences that comes with being tricked by a phishing email. But I'll get into a little more details about that right now. So these stats are actually, I pulled these stats back in June, but as you can see, and they're all from Barracuda Networks. For those of you that are not familiar, well, that top bullet item anyway, Barracuda Networks is basically one of the first anti-spam email filtering devices out there. It's been around for a really long time, but they're basically, their stats have shown that there's been a 667% spike in COVID-19 related email attacks. So that's crazy, right? So we're seeing that pop up a lot. We've actually used some of that in our own attacks. So again, it's been really effective in some of our campaigns that we've run, because obviously everybody has this fear of the unknown with COVID, and they want to get more information on it. So hackers will typically play on users' fears to entice them to actually click on a link. So with that being said, again, there's still a huge attack vector with phishing, and it's only going to get worse until we really kind of tighten down our security awareness training for end users. So some other items that we've kind of seen is hot button issues, right? Meaning that I've had a lot of good success with the BLM movement, right? So if you have I would craft an email kind of stating about, hey, please see our company's or our president's or our CEO's official stance against the Black Lives Matters movement. Click on this link to read the press release. This is one I haven't tried yet, but I think in our next campaign, I'm going to try to run with this one, where we look at the election, right? Maybe try to center an email around the election, things like that. I imagine, because again, it's what we call a hot button issue, things that are going to like really entice somebody to click. And again, COVID is still out there. It's still a big deal. We should really start looking into possibly, really training end users like, hey, how would COVID communications come from the company, right? We're not going to send you a blanket email, or we'll release an official policy like this. So again, I hope to have great success with the election coming up in our next campaign, and still leveraging COVID, even as the virus, the antivirus comes out, right? Like I could still use it to say something like, oh, click here to learn about your local virus distribution center, or something of that nature. So before I really kind of get into this one and the origins of this particular email, hopefully everybody could see it okay, and how a really good phish is crafted, I just kind of want to circle back and some of the observations that we've been kind of seeing, why these are so dangerous. Like when we actually run a campaign, we don't necessarily do anything that's considered too dangerous. But historically, what we have been seeing is that ransomware intrusions have been all linked back to a user clicking on a phishing link, right? Well, you think to yourself, well, how does that happen, right? So what we've been seeing a lot is a tool called Cobalt Strike, that when a user clicks on a phishing link, unbeknownst to them, a program like Cobalt Strike gets installed and it gets hidden. And then from there, the attacker is able to basically move laterally throughout the network. And then eventually what they're kind of doing is deploying ransomware. In other examples, right, what we've also seen are credential stealing, right? So credential stealing is still one of the #1 attacks. And this example here is actually one of the most famous credential stealing attacks in the past. Well, it happened in 2016. I've changed the names around, but this is the exact email that John Podesta, who is Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, got. So this is pulled straight from WikiLeaks, and I modified it a little bit. But this is what you could kind of be considered a really good phish. And I'm going to talk about the multiple things that kind of happened here that caused this attack to be successful. So the number one thing that kind of happened was, and again, I've changed these around just to kind of protect names, but this is again, it was geared towards John Podesta. You could go find it on WikiLeaks if you want, but what actually happened is that Mr. Podesta got an email basically saying that somebody has access to your Google account. Someone has your password, right? And it said, "Hi, John, someone," and again, I used Jim. I don't know why I changed the names. I just did. I don't know, maybe because I wanted to protect their privacy, but it doesn't really make much sense now that I'm just kind of calling out who they were. But anyway, someone just used your password to try to sign into your Google account. There were some headers here previously that made it look like it was from actually Gmail. We see that it came in from the Ukraine with this particular IP address, and it's basically saying, "Hey, Google stopped a sign attempt. You should change your password immediately." John Podesta did the right thing. He forwarded it to his assistant. As you can see in this email, he forwarded it to his assistant and said, "Hey, is this legitimate? Should I be doing this?" And his IT person, right, immediately responded, "Go, oh no, yeah, this is real. He has to change his password and enable two-step verification." So if we look here, though, I like to highlight this right where I don't know if you guys can see my mouse movement or not, but at the very top of the message where he says "sent from my iPhone," right, meaning that his IT support, right, did a quick look on his iPhone, made the determination that, oh, hey, yeah, he should reset. This is legitimate, right? And reset it. He should reset his account immediately. So as soon as they did that, they went ahead and they clicked on this change password link. And now all of a sudden, a hacker, who knows, I think it was, the group was maybe called Fuzzy Bear. We're not quite sure what the group was, but then all of a sudden, all their emails regarding just there's thousands of documents up on WikiLeaks related to the campaign, different political actions, things like that, was all made available because of this action. So as soon as the person got access to their email, in this particular case, they exfiltrated all that data and made it publicly available. So in a attack where somebody is able to steal credentials from you in an organization, it might be one of those things where they set up forwarding rules. We're seeing a lot of different things where if you click on something like this, a forwarding rule is automatically set up, and you don't necessarily know that they have access to your email, and any email you write is being secretly forwarded out. So what could be included in that type of thing? Well, you have account information, password changes, and then you have a business email compromise, which means that somebody could also say, "Hey, well, I need you to transfer these funds," right? So a lot of different things can happen just from a very simple email phish like this one. Again, I would recommend that in this type of scenario, if you think that your account has been compromised, you do check with your IT person, right? But then if the IT person says, "Hey, yeah, go ahead and reset your password," don't ever click on the link that was kind of sent to you in the email. Always go to the source, right? Always go to the source and actually change your password from there. So again, some of the other techniques nowadays that are being leveraged. Oh, I'm sorry. I should probably talk back about what kind of makes this a really good phish as well. So the best phish, right? The best phishing accounts come from people that really craft and think about the domains that they're sending emails from. So for example, if you look here, the from account, no reply at accounts.googlemail.com. Now at the time, googlemail.com wasn't a real thing. I think since then, Google has actually bought that domain to prevent people from doing this type of attack, but the attacker had actually bought this domain, right? So really good phishing techniques are going to try to mimic the domain name as closely as possible to the real domain or your domain that you might be part of. Okay. Another thing, and I don't think I could have it really kind of highlighted in this, I accidentally cut that out. But when you click on this change password link, or you were to hover over to it, you would notice that the URL was actually shortened. URL shortening is great for people that need to relay URL information. But in regards to embedding a URL shortener in an actual email that's HTML enabled, it doesn't really make too much sense, because hyperlinks, you're not typing anything out, you're not reading anything out, you're just clicking on a hyperlink. So you always want to kind of be wary of items like that. Hey, cool. Anybody have any questions so far? I know we said that we would like kind of be interrupted with questions, but I just want to kind of pause there. Again, I feel like this email is like one of the best ones to highlight phishing and how damaging it could actually be. So again, what we're seeing is, and this one started coming up right around when COVID came. This is an actual phishing email that was in the wild. So we did just get a question, or a comment would be, I have always thought one of the most dangerous times for phishing is around this time of year because of health insurance removal. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great attack avenue. I would attack vector. I would certainly use that. But anything that, you have to renew yearly, health insurance, right? Maybe your IRA is coming up, making changes to any type of plans, for sure. That's a perfect time, a perfect template. Maybe I'll add that one. I didn't even think about that one this year, but yeah, that's definitely a great scenario, is playing on something that is going to come up in a yearly subscription, right? Oh, hey, your service that you subscribe to is expired. We've been seeing also on the personal level with people's personal accounts, tons of different Netflix type things, right? So again, all great attack scenarios. And
hey, Jesse,
yes,
just one note: Amazon Prime is coming up, so
there you go. Amazon Prime. Yeah, I think that's next week.
Amazon account, watch out.
Yeah, watch out. Look out for Prime Day specials, right? But also Prime Day phishing. So again, the scenario is usually really good phish is crafted around hot button scenarios, time of subscription type things of that nature. So again, going back to this example here with the CDC, this was coming out right around when COVID. And if you look, right, again, this ends up being a fake email that links you back. It looks pretty legitimate to me, with the exception of this test@test.com. That's only because it was generated from our system. But if I got this and I was really nervous about COVID when it first started coming out, and I have to go, oh geez, I need to see this updated list of cases in my city. I need to make sure that Peter isn't going to give me COVID, right? So I'd want to go ahead and click on this and try to view it. And next thing you know, unbeknownst to me, I'm getting some sort of malicious software installed, or it's asking me to log in, or something of that nature. Another great example that there's been an influx in. Another question just came up from Mike. Have you had an opportunity to leverage COBIT 2019 framework for social entry? Honestly, Mike, no, I haven't. We'll maybe kind of look into that. Good note, though. We have not leveraged that yet. Another great attack that we've kind of seen in the wild is who's working remotely. How about that? I'm not working remotely. I'm in my office today, but pretty much 99.9% of the time I'm working remotely, right? So what does that mean? Well, it means you have to have, hopefully, some level of VPN access, right? So what we're seeing is that people will get notifications that their VPN is out of date, or their VPN credentials have expired, or that they have to relog into VPN. So what we've been doing is, or what attackers have been doing as well, is sending landing pages like this to capture credentials, right? And an unsuspecting user isn't going to know that, oh, hey, somebody just captured my credentials. It'll just basically port them to like a Google web page once they do this, but unbeknownst to them, somebody now has VPN access into their network. So, and then from there, a skilled attacker will be able to do some of the things I was describing earlier, start moving laterally until they eventually get administrative access, and then a game over for that company, right? And this one I kind of like to throw in here. I tried to trick one of our managing partners into doing this around the COVID times. He didn't fall for it, obviously, but one of the things that was kind of going around is basically what was happening is that people were applying for these Payment Protection Act loans, right? So one of the other ones that was going around frequently was, hey, your loan has been approved. Go ahead and click on here and then all of a sudden it's one asking you for your banking credentials, or it's going ahead and it's, once again, installing some sort of malicious software on your machine. Okay. So another thing that I've observed, and this is just for me personally, I don't know if it goes for everybody, but I imagine some people kind of think the same way. The phishing attacks really just kind of can happen when users don't pay attention to detail, right? And when we're all working remotely or working from home or, have other distractions in our life, especially like a full house where you're homeschooling your kid, distance learning, she's yelling in your ear, the cat's jumping on your keyboard, and then all of a sudden you're trying to respond to an email in a timely manner, you end up basically clicking on something you shouldn't have. So one of the things that I've tried to do personally, try different techniques to keep yourself focused while working at home, right? This is the Pomodoro technique, right? Which basically allows you to really just kind of hone in on one particular task to be done. For example, in the morning, I like to go through my emails. There's like hundreds of them, right? I like to go through those. And I know that specifically when I'm working on my email, I'm going to ignore things like instant messaging or my phone ringing or something like that. And I'll spend a good, solid 25 minutes on that one actual task, right? Making sure that I pay attention to detail, making sure that I'm not urgent to click on something that I haven't fully reviewed. So kind of going over, again, some things you could do to really protect yourself other than, really kind of focusing. People don't typically give away money in email. You're not a prince or a duke. Look for the from address, look at the actual email address. I'll go over that in an example here momentarily. Beware of links in emails. Formatting allows for a destination to be much different than when it shows. Basically, when you have HTML edited content, you can link it to anywhere. One of the things that you could possibly do is make sure that all your emails are opened up in plain text. They won't look pretty, but you probably won't get hacked. So we got a couple more details here on this. Like I was talking about earlier, step number one, phishers and hackers, they'll use, try to mimic a legitimate address as close as possible with any good phishing attempt. Often the address is generic, like dear customer, right? That's not going to have your name tied to it directly. Hovering over, as you can see where you do log in, right? When you hover over to that, you're going to see that it's actually to a destination other than Standard Bank, right? Standard Bank. It's actually supremeloans.com. And then finally, contents of the email are often vague, and there's a lot of grammar or misspellings or something like that. So again, really pay attention to any types of things like that in order to best protect yourself. Now, what I kind of wanted to do was I kind of wanted to highlight a phishing platform that we use, just to kind of show you how easy it is to get a phish out, right? In most cases. And there's no reason why, like I was saying earlier, for example, Cobalt Strike is a very well-known pen tester tool. It's so good at its job that, bad actors are using it. Well, same with phishing platforms and phishing templates. People are leveraging these tools in a bad way as well. So like, again, it goes back to the ethical hacking versus the malicious hacker. Okay, so let me kind of bounce over to our system here, make sure I don't reveal anything I shouldn't. But this is our platform, and I've already have it like kind of somewhat in progress here, but it's basically at this point, I've only done 2 clicks. So I have a demo here and I have the client being myself. With our particular platform, we like to include training, meaning that if you fell victim to my phish, then basically what's going to happen is you'll get a separate training link to kind of be like, hey, you probably shouldn't have clicked on that. Here's some tips to help you in the future. But here we go. I'm going to go in and click next. And from here, there's all these different attack templates that I could basically use as a starting point. The other thing I could do, again, with really good phish, if I have a really targeted, like a spear phishing targeted type campaign, I can craft it to be whatever I want. I could just use a blank. But again, the templates are really kind of pretty nice. And then you could always, again, modify and adjust them to be what you need. Now, I'm not hacking a product, but look, here we go. There's that COVID scam I was talking about earlier, right? I wonder if there's anyone in here. Somebody had mentioned insurance. I haven't checked our system to see if there's an insurance one, but there you go. Look at that. Insurance policy changes. I haven't actually played with this one, so we'll try this one out right now. I'm going to stick with English because I don't know how to read German. But again, earlier when I was talking, right, again, a good phisher, I have all these different domains here, and I'll spin them up and put them down. I have a generic one that I typically use for depending on the type of engagement. But for example, if I'm attacking a company called NetSense, for example, I'm going to try to go out and I'm going to search domain names that closely match NetSense and try to emulate that, and then send the email from a NetSense domain. For our purposes, I'm going to stick with this MX email info. Also, people tend to trust the fact that there's a SSL certificate tied to things. Just because an SSL certificate is present, that means, yeah, communications is encrypted, and the fact that you're visiting that site, it's there's no repudiation. It is like where you say you are. That usually makes it a little bit nicer. It gives people that warm fuzzy, that little lock, right? So one of the things I talked about earlier too is the sender name. I want to highlight that specifically, right? Because I'll show you guys why I do this. We'll be like, and I'm going to make this really simple. I don't think this is a good sender name. Or actually, we'll do human resources. How about that? All right, so I type out human resources here, but in all the attacks I do, watch this, I'm hitting the space bar. And hopefully the reason I'm doing this is going to come out as soon as we view the email, but I'm just putting in tons of spaces in here, tons, right? And then for the domain, I'm just going to do hr@mxemail.info. Next, and I'm going to enter in my email manually. And I have my whole system set up. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And I'm going to start this campaign. And now I have my information on this campaign. Let me go ahead and see if this email actually comes in or if I mess something up, and I'd like to share it with everybody. And here we go. I'm going to pull it over to the right here. Now, without really going into too many details, one of the things, right? If you look, why did I put all those spaces in? Well, look here. See how it just says human resources? There's not really too much of an indicator here that it's not from my actual human resources, right? So an unsuspecting user will be like, oh, geez, I better answer this. But if you kind of hover over it, again, the reason I put all that in there, especially with the Outlook client, which I'm pretty sure a lot of people use, it hides that actual email address until you actually hover over it. See, I'm pointing, like you guys can see me pointing, but if you look here, it kind of drops it down. And again, if you're not really paying attention, you're not going to notice the domain. So next thing you know, I click again. Usually I didn't set this up because we're doing a simple, but you'd have a bit.ly shortened address here. I'm going to click on this, see what happens. And oh, hey, it just redirected me to Google. That's weird, right? Well, unbeknownst to me, probably in the background, it's then installing some type of malicious software or a reverse shell link or something of that nature. And that's it. That's how easy it is to kind of succumb to a phishing email. So again, I wanted to, again, highlight awareness for phishing. And I want to make sure that, again, we're doing our due diligence, get that user awareness training done, and really pay attention, because it'd be horrible day for any company if somebody were to get hacked by clicking on something that was 100% preventable. And from here, I'm basically, unless there are any further questions, I'm going to turn my session over to Peter. And what Peter's going to talk about is kind of really interesting stuff about human behavior and how it pertains to social engineering and the different types of experiences he's had with social engineering events and attacks and things like that. So I'll just wait for a sec. So we have a question. Do you have any recommendations for how to handle phishing campaigns for newer, more immature companies? I have been given recommendations to start off easy for the users and work my way up to advanced phishers. Yeah, I would have to agree with that, Rebecca. You definitely want to start off really slow, because you have to be careful where you don't want to make your end users scared to actually open an email. And to be perfectly honest, even with our company, we have a little bit of that nervousness, because we're always on the lookout that when somebody does suspect something, they pop in a channel and go, hey, did anybody send out this email? Is this legit? Things like that. So you do want to be careful. You want to find a good balance of, like, basically, you don't want your users to have click fear, but you want to make them aware of what you're going to be doing, some of the things to look out for. And then you also want to make sure you award them for doing the right thing and not necessarily punish them for falling victim, because it's all about, make them confident, make them secure, and make them want to be part of your information security policy.
Hey, Jesse, this is Tom. Something I want to interject here.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting because of all the tools that we're now coming up with too. Some tools are so good at potentially blocking all the phishing and that, and so sometimes people still have to maintain that diligence because they kind of take for granted that quote unquote their tools are doing it, but it may not always be the case.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. Same thing with like antivirus and like anything, right? Like, the tool is only as good as it's learned to be, right? So if somebody comes up with a little bit different of a technique, or a little bit, in the case of like antivirus, brand new virus that hasn't been seen, the tool, you can't rely 100% on the tool, right? You can't rely that that tool, that your antivirus program is going to pick up that particular executable or that particular PDF as a virus, right? Or you can't be 100% sure that your Barracuda spam device is blocking that particular spam email, right? So again, don't rely on the tools 100%. It all starts with understanding what a phish is and what it can do. All right, I think from there, I'm going to go ahead and stop my screen share, and Peter's going to kind of take over where I left off. And I want to thank everybody for the questions and the opportunity to present to you all today.
Thanks a lot, Jesse. Can everybody hear me and see my screen?
I can.
All right.
Assuming everybody else can.
Perfect. All right. This picture right here of this this warning, I think, is very apropos for social engineering. As Jesse stated, here at Compass, we do a lot of different types of social engineering. We do phishing, we do on-site, try and break in. And this screen right here, I think it tells the whole story right now. You know, danger, alligators and snakes maybe in the area. This picture was actually taken when I attended the Human Hacker Conference, the inaugural conference down in Florida with Chris Hadnaghi and his team. So that's where that picture actually, this is a picture right outside my hotel room. So the next one that we're seeing right here is who knows your password? You know, they were saying that SMB, small businesses, are more trusting than larger companies, but these statistics are about sharing your streaming media. They're saying that 23% of spouses know what your account is and your password is for your streaming media, 55% of the family. This little one down here is actually, it says 1%, someone I don't know well. And the other one up here is 8% of friends. And for instance, well, I can't see hands, but anyways, Amazon Prime, do you share your Prime account out? Netflix accounts, you know, do you have one for you and one for your spouse or significant other? Keep things separated. It's yours. Your password for these accounts may be used somewhere else. So just be aware of that. So that's what this screen is actually talking about right here. And I think it's funny that 55% of the family knows. There's no dog in there, but grandma's there. So the next screen right here, this was actually at the Human Hacker Conference. And it's, I labeled it everyone in the pool. Come on in. What's actually going on here was this is a live vishing. One of the customers, and it's a live vishing, and this is Human Hacker right here. This Chris Hadnaghi. I don't remember this woman that's in the booth, but she actually works for Chris, and she was showing us how easy it is to gain information from their clients. Now, Chris runs the Human Hacking Conference. He's the president of socialengineering.org, and he also runs the Social Engineering Village out at DEF CON. And if you're ever able to get out to DEF CON, I highly recommend going in and taking a look at what's going on in the SE Village, Social Engineering Village. I've actually competed 4 times there, and I was in this booth with about 500 to 1,000 people. Everybody's looking at you, and it can be a little unnerving. But once you get started, dopamine kicks in, and you just kind of calm down, and we go through a vishing experience. Now, for us, when we compete out at DEF CON, we first have to put in a request saying that, you know, we want to compete. Chris then asks us to come up with a video on why he should select you. If you are one of the selected people, at that point, you'll get your targets. We call them targets. And for me, my target was Fortinet was one of them. Macy's was another one. And one of them was the Shell Corporation. We have a bunch of flags. We have to do open source intelligence gathering and write a report for Chris on everything that we found doing the open source intelligence gathering. And the reason why I bring this up is the nefarious people are doing open source intelligence gathering on your company, not specifically yours, but on their targets. You've got to be aware of some of the information that's being shared out on the internet, and you've got to hone that in and let people know that, you know, some information shouldn't be shared. One of the things that I found when I was doing Fortinet was the CEO was actually on vacation in the Sierra Nevadas, and he was posting pictures of him on vacation in the Sierra Nevadas. Now that was a pretext for me. I developed a pretext around that, the sharing of those pictures, stating, you know, hey, Mr. CEO, I was out in the Sierra Nevadas with you during this same time frame, and I took great pictures of you and your significant other, and I want to share those with you. Just click the attachment, and as Jesse said, watch out what you click. So I just wanted to bring that up. If you're able to get out to DEF CON, out to Vegas, please check out the Social Engineering Village. Now, this information was provided to us by Chris Hadnaghi and his company. It talks about different pretexts and the 4 different categories. Other is just a bunch of different other ones. It could be the sales department, marketing department, and other departments within the company. But what he wanted to show here in this slide is what pretexts worked best for them. And, you know, as you can see, the 4, you know, HR, IT, hey, I'm here from the help desk. I'm here to train, you know, resolve your issue. Training department, you know, you haven't done your training yet. But actually, you'd be interesting to find out which pretexts actually work the best. And that's shown here on the next slide. Jesse talked about it earlier when he did his phishing. He used human resources. When HR speaks, people listen. And that's what we're showing right here in this graphic right here is the HR department. If it came from HR, a lot of people listened. And this is not just for phishing, but for vishing also. Vishing is voice. I'm calling you up and I'm saying, hey, you didn't do your HR stuff. I'm sending you the link. Do it. Or try and, hey, go to this site. Actually, part of the social engineering capture the flag out at DEF CON is if we could get our targets to visit se.org, we got a lot of points for that. I think it was like 26 different points for that. And actually, I got my target to visit that twice within 2 minutes. And she was unaware of actually how URLs worked. So I had to put in www.seorg.org. She went there and I said, oh, I see a green head. Great, I got 26 points for that. And she goes, it's not the site that you said I should see. So I said, all right, now take out the www and just go to seorg, se.org. She went there again. I took advantage of a situation, but it wasn't malicious. It wasn't a malicious site. It was just the green head from social engineering. Now, the next one that we're going to be talking about right here is what's the best day to call? You know, we've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We're not seeing Saturdays and Sundays. Those are probably not good days to call. But which one of these days, actually, can everybody just post in what they would think would be a great day to call?
Wednesday.
Jesse says Wednesday. All right,
Monday.
I'm seeing a Monday, a Friday. We're seeing a Wednesday. All right, so we got 2 for Wednesday, Thursday. All right. So let's take a look at what actually turns out to be the best day, and then we'll just discuss that. It's Tuesday. The reason why Monday wasn't a very good day to call is people are just coming back to work. You know, you've got all these emails that you got to respond to. You got voicemail that you got to respond to. Tuesday was the best day to call because, all right, I've already answered all my emails. I can do something. Wednesday's hump day. So Wednesday wasn't really a good day. Thursday, you're getting towards the end of the week. Friday, people check out on Friday. You know, some companies have half days. And does anyone, can you post in what you think would be the best time frame? Now, your time frames are 8 a.m. to lunch to 4 p.m., or 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., Eastern times only. How many people think 8 to lunch in the morning? Okay, I'm seeing lunch to 4. 8 to lunch, 8 to lunch. Lunch to 4. We see 2 lunch to 4s, 2 8 to lunches. Is there? Actually, it was actually from lunch to 4 p.m. was the highest. And then the next highest was 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. And the reason for this, and 8 a.m. to lunch was the bottom list. We're also talking about, we're not just calling here on the East Coast, we're calling the West Coast also. So that's why noon to 4 was the best time to call, was you're getting the people that are getting out of bed, getting into work and everything on the West Coast, as well as here on the East Coast, you know, calling 2 o'clock to somebody in the East Coast. They've just come back from lunch. They got food coma. They're not really thinking straight. You're going to get somebody working on that one. So this next one right here is how much our communication is made up of nonverbal communication. We talk a lot with nonverbal communications. 60 to 85% of all communication is nonverbal, as you can see right here. Nonverbals also alert us of danger. You know, you can see somebody, or for detecting deception. Deception is a lot on the face. Danger is, you can see a lot of danger in somebody's face. That danger could be anger. Somebody's showing anger. Where do they show anger? They show it in their face. So not necessarily with what's coming out of their mouth, what they're actually saying, but the face tells a lot about what's going on with a person. This bullet right here, Terry versus Ohio, okay, detecting criminal activities. This was a Supreme Court decision back in, actually Supreme Court decided on it back in '68. The actual occurrence happened in 1963. What actually happened was a police officer saw two people. They walk down, one person walks down the street, they look in a window, they stand there for a little bit looking in a window, they walk past it, they come back to where that other person is standing. They did this a number of times. And then the other person started doing the same exact thing. And this police officer noticed what was going on, and he actually stopped and frisked. This is a stop and frisk, and now they call it stop and frisk. But he actually stopped these, actually there were 3 individuals at one point at the last part of it, but he stopped the 2 individuals because they were reasonable suspicion. And what was going on. And actually, two of the people that he stopped and frisked actually had illegal handguns on them. And the way this works, detecting criminal activity in the stop and frisk, is the police officer has to have a reasonable suspicion to stop and frisk. But he just can't say, I just thought so. I thought they looked a little shady. That's not good enough. He's also got to be able to articulate to court of law why he stopped and frisked these people. And this officer was able to articulate why he stopped them, why they looked suspicious to him. And that's why the Terry versus Ohio stop and frisk, that's what that's all about right there. Now this last one, a thin slice assessment, this actually comes from a gentleman by the name of Joe Navarro. Joe Navarro was in the Secret Service, and what he talks about is observing a small selection of an interaction, and it's less than 5 minutes, and then being able to accurately draw a conclusion in the emotions and attitude of what you observed. And that's what a thin slice assessment is. Joe, being in the Secret Service, he had to develop those thin slice assessments to be very good, because, he's protecting the President of the United States. He's interacting with suspicious and nefarious people, and he's got to understand, are these people telling me the truth or are they lying to me? So that's what this thin slice assessment is. You can actually start learning about thin slice assessment and practicing it on your own by going into a Starbucks, going into a McDonald's, and just seeing how people interact within there. So that's what that is. And the reason why I'm bringing all this nonverbal communication up is because we talked about vishing, we're talking about, we talked about phishing, we're talking about vishing, and we're talking about on-site assessments. All this is done from on-site assessments. You've got to be able to take a look at a person. This person's hanging out at the smoking area. What's he going to do out in the smoking area? You've got to be able to have that thin slice assessment of what's going on. Somebody walks into your office, and just be observant of what they're doing and what they're trying to do. The last thing we want to do is have somebody walking around in our building that's not supposed to be there. Jesse and I have done that. We've gotten up to some very high offices. When I say high offices, I mean officers within the company. The CEO's office. We've been able to get into the CEO's office. Why? Because we played the part. We were never challenged. And that's one of these things is you've got to challenge people. It's not about being rude. It's protecting your assets. There's no problem asking somebody, excuse me, can I help you? If you ask a person, can you help them? First of all, you're being friendly. You're creating an interaction with that person. You're trying to start a dialogue with that person. But that may show their hand to you for detecting that deception. Being able to take that little 1 second thin slice assessment of what's going on. Does all of a sudden that person, do they try and shy away from you? Are they not making eye contact with you? Are they mumbling? That's the stop and frisk. Back to the stop and frisk. The officer questioned them on, what their name is. They were mumbling what their names were. They were not giving him the information that he was looking for. If you stop a person in your office that you don't recognize, that does not have a badge that's one of yours, and just communicate with them and say, can I help you? You know, their nonverbals are going to tell you a lot. All right, let's go on to the next one. These are some of the nonverbals that you can actually start picking out what's going on. Danger, their emotion. One of the things that shows emotion quickest is the chin. Understand, everybody's wearing a mask today. We're not noticing the chin. But the chin shows emotion the most and the quickest. I'm not sure if you have any children or not, but when you're scolding them and they start to cry, what's the first thing that happens is their chin starts to quiver. You can tell insecurities about a person, whether they're competent, trusting, whether they're being compliant. So just take a look at these. If you want to copy them down, I'll just keep these here for a second. If anybody's got a question about these. All right, I'm going to just move along. This is about assessing behavior. And again, this is for people that are coming on premise, trying to break into your company. Take a look at the person. Is the person a threat to me? You know, are they showing threatening behavior? Is this person of high or low status? You can really tell whether a person's of high or low status or somebody who's acting like they are of high or low status by their mannerisms. What's actually, what their nonverbal communication. When I say nonverbal, I don't just mean their face, I mean their whole body. Take a look at their whole body, but start with the face and move down. Issues or criminal behavior, are they, you know, are they always checking an area? You know, that's something. You know, if they're trying to hide something, they're usually gonna go and pat that area a number of times to see, you know, is it showing? Are they? Is it falling out? What are the nonverbal signs of somebody not being truthful? Actually, we can go back to that for a second. Nonverbal signs, actually, you know what? Let's hold off that, Steve, to the end, all right? Because I've actually got a link at the end that it's a book by Joe Navarro, what people are not, it's what people are not saying, what their body's saying, but what they're not saying. Nonverbal signs, they're not making eye contact. Everybody says that if a person crosses their arms, they're lying, they're holding something in, but that's not true. They've proven that it's not true. The person could be cold. Take a look at their feet. Where do their feet, how do they position their feet? Are they looking to get away? They say that if two people are having an interaction and their feet are facing each other, they're both into that conversation. If one person is bladed a foot out, that person who's bladed a foot out is looking to get away. They don't really want to be in this conversation with a person. If another person comes into the conversation, if one person is bladed away, again, they don't want that other person. All of a sudden, let's say this third person comes in to a conversation and one of the people starts to blade their foot away from the conversation. They don't want this other person in the conversation. So take a look at the feet. Feet show whether they're into it or not, whether they're being, I wouldn't say truthful, but whether they're into it or not. Some other parts of the feet is whether you're sitting down and you've got your feet locked around the rungs of a chair. You feel like you're locked in. Some of the readings have shown that if two parents are having a conversation and a child comes into the conversation and one of the parents crosses their leg, they're blocking. Legs can be used for blocking. You know, how do they sit? When they sit, are they sitting upright, or are they leaning back, or are they leaning forward? If they're leaning forward, they're more into the conversation. Also, look at the forearms of the person. It's called sorry, that's the neck. But the forearms of the person, whether they've got their palms up and they're open towards you, it's another way of a person just opening up to you. So check out, the feet, the posture, the hands, the arms. Look at the neck. If the person is squared off, you can disarm a person just by cocking your head, and you're opening up the ventricle on the side of your neck. You can see this within animals in the animal kingdom. When animals are trying to get along with other animals, you'll see one animal roll over on their back, exposing their belly. Their belly is one of the most tender areas. You want to protect the belly. You want to protect the neck, but they're opening up the neck. They're letting you in. So I think those are some of the things that you can take a look at for nonverbal signs. And it's not really whether they're being truthful or not. Are they hiding something? That's really what we want to talk about, is whether they're hiding something or not. I wouldn't say truthful, I'd say hiding. Thanks for the question, Steve. Is the person a threat to me? You can talk about that. You can see that in a person. Does this person approach you with a clenched fist? Stressed? You might want to give that person a little space. Eye contact or not? What do you mean by that, sir? Making eye contact with a person? If they're not making eye contact with a person, they're probably hiding something. But again, take that as a thin slice. Take, somebody doing eye blocking. Eye blocking is, but that can be something completely different, and we're actually going to get to the eye blocking part of it soon. One of the things is, where are they emotionally? Is this person all stressed out? Why are they stressed out? We've got to understand what's going on in a person's background. Don't just make a quick judgment on somebody, but put everything into its place. And once you have, they say 3 to 5 observances of something, you can make a decision from that point. So what this universal reactions, duck, dip, dive, duck, and dodge. These are, all mammals have this. Positive and negative sentiment. They mirror things. A dog will mirror your movements. The freeze, self-restraint. And the freeze is, the freeze, flight, or flight. The flight, that's the distance. If a person's coming at you with clenched fists and, a solid jaw and veins popping out of their necks, you might want to gain distance, and just, what's going on? Are you all right? The fight, that's an argument. You know, are they looking to argue with you? Pacify, self-soothing. Pacification is something that that comforts and soothes you. People rub their neck. They might rub their neck. That's self-pacification. You know, guys, when we're kind of in a stressful situation, you know, we kind of cross our arms one under the other, and we might just massage our bicep. Another thing is you might massage your thighs, and that's self-pacification. That's a soothing. Take a look at that. When self-pacification, that's another sign of some type of stress. Now, what's that wrinkle between your nose? You know, this guy's like, huh? That wrinkle is actually have a name. It's called a glabella. And what it shows is that person is struggling with something. Something you said, something you did, something they saw, something they did. Doubt, apprehension, disbelief manifests themselves, usually manifests themselves in the eyes, and that's the glabella, you know. And if you actually make that look right now, you kind of can feel yourself saying, huh? It's spelled glabella. It's Glabella. So, you know, next time you see somebody with a glabella, you know, you all right? Everything good? Now, this is what's called eye blocking. This is you cover your eyes. Eye blocking is a very powerful display of consternation, disbelief, or disagreement. So actually, this person right here in figure 6, this is actually Joe Navarro. And he's demonstrating right there eye blocking. I think everybody knows who these two gentlemen are. Now, this is, we talk about right here is how confident are you? This is called steepling. Now, a person, when you're in a meeting, take a look around the table, see who's steepling. You'll probably notice the person with the highest rank within the office is actually steepling like this one with a high confidence, with a thumbs up. Somebody who steeples with their thumbs down, that's low confidence. You know, when you go into your next meeting, try this out. Observe it and try it. You know, if you start talking about a situation in a meeting and you're steepling with your thumbs up, you know, you're showing that you're very high, you have high confidence in what you're saying. And this is about improving communications. 5 ways to improve communications. Give personal space. In other words, go in, have a handshake, and just take a step back. Give that person their space. Handshakes. Now, handshakes, right here it says, never do the probe or the politician. Politician is shaking somebody's hand and covering the hands with your left hand. That's the politician handshake. It attempts to show dominance, but it usually just puts people off. The probe is going in with a handshake and putting your index finger up on their wrist. That's called a probe. It's uncomfortable. Don't do it. And when you're pointing, they always say point with a palm and not with a finger. Let's face it, we've all been scolded by our parents. What does your parent do? Your parent points at you and scolds. Whereas if you're pointing with a full palm, people take it less offensively. You see a lot of politicians do it with a fist, with their thumb not down along the knuckles, but over the index. You'll see a lot of politicians when they start talking, they'll talk like that. Joe Biden, during his and Trump's, whatever you want to call it, he actually, when he was pointing to the camera, he was pointing with an open palm. Here's what I was talking about right here. Tilting your head is more important than smiling. It demonstrates you're listening. But it also, tilting the head allows access to the neck, and that's not subservient, but it's opening. It's non-threatening. So, try this at some point. Just when somebody's talking to you, tilt your head. It means that you're listening. When you speak, make sure others can always see your hands. Don't hide your hands down on your lap when you're talking to somebody. Don't hide them behind a podium. Don't hide them behind your screen. Keep your hands visible. Like I said before, 60-85% of the communication is done non-verbally. I speak with my hands. Just now I just pointed to my chest and I came out with open palms. I speak with my hands. But there's another way of communicating with people, just to show that you're open, you're approachable. So, but again, when you're trying, these are good things to learn when you're trying to social engineer somebody also. A good social engineer, when you come up and you talk to them, they're going to tilt their head. Be aware of that. These are all things to be aware of for both sides. How you communicate with somebody and how somebody communicates with you. Tilting your head is more important than smiling. It demonstrates you're listening. Is that person that you just question whether they're coming into your building, are they allowed into your building or not? Are they just zombies straight ahead, or, oh, all right, I didn't know that, I'm sorry. It might be a mistake that they're coming in. I didn't know I had to do that. Actually, I got one more slide. Now, these are some final observations. These are actually things that you can pick up for nonverbal communication. And whether you're doing the social engineering or somebody's trying to do it on you. Puckering or pursing the lips. This is saying that they've already reached a conclusion. And that conclusion is disagreement. And what I'm talking about here is these are some things that you can take upon yourselves when you're trying to make a sales pitch, when you're trying to, just try and get something that you're looking for, as far as maybe it might be business, might be pleasure. That puckering and pursing of the lips. If they're doing that, stop talking. If the lips move forward, a decision's already been made. but you might come back with other questions. Ask them, what are you thinking? You're trying to talk your boss into buying some new software, new hardware, or something like that. And all of a sudden your boss purses their lips. He's already made a conclusion. It's probably in disagreement. Come back. Don't, just take it as is. Come back and say, what are you thinking? Start that dialogue with the person. One of the things is thinning the lips. The lips disappear, trouble is near. I know when I was a kid, my father would always, all of a sudden you see the thinning of the lips and it's like, hey, I'm in trouble. Crossing your arms. Like it says here, it's a self-comforting behavior. It's not a blocking behavior. Crossing your legs is more of a blocking behavior than crossing your arms. As I stated, crossing your arms, you might just be cold. It might be more comfortable for you. If an officer is coming up to you, he's going to have his arms crossed, but he's going to have them crossed in a different manner. Right there, feet are more honest than the face. You might be talking to somebody, this is going back to that other conversation that I had. You might be talking to somebody and all of a sudden they blade their foot outside. They're looking to get away. Somebody who locks their feet on the rungs of a chair, they feel like they're trapped. That's one of that's what that means, is they feel like they're trapped. And this bottom one right here, the chin shows more emotion than their eyes. And I stated that if you have a child and you just scolded them, right before they start to cry, you're going to notice that chin start to quiver. So when you're talking to somebody, take a look at their chin. See what their chin's doing. And last but not least, here's a link to Joe Navarro and his book, What Everybody is Saying. This is a great book. It talks a lot about the body and what people are not saying verbally, but what their bodies are telling us. And that's all I have. Does anyone have any questions?